Welcome to Spirits of Whiskey. We explore the wide world of whiskey through the many colorful personalities who make it, promote it, write about it, and more.
With each podcast, Kerry Moynahan, a certified bourbon steward and bartender, and yours truly, Philip Dobard, director of the Cocktail Collection, interview whiskey's most important names.
From high-profile makers, blenders, and ambassadors,
to out-of-the-way innovators and remote pioneers.
Join us as we discover the people and elements that give the water of life its spirit. It is Whiskey Wednesday, June 19th, 2021, and you're listening to episode 45. Today, we speak with Seth Benhaim about Broken Barrel Whiskey. But first, we catch up with Matt Hofmann of Westland Distillery via telephone for one of our new segments, Whiskey Whereabouts.
Spirits of Whiskey explores the wide world of whiskey through high-profile and out-of-the-way makers, blenders, writers, ambassadors, innovators, and pioneers. And we've been traveling the world virtually to bring these people and their whiskey journeys to you. We realize just how many great stories we've put aside to share with you at a later date. And that date is here. Spirits of Whiskey is offering access to its new VIP content page to loyal listeners and whiskey lovers who want more. And when it comes to whiskey, who doesn't want more? For as little as 99 cents a month, you can have access to videos related to topics discussed on past podcasts, as well as our new series, The Malting Floor. Sign up now to become a supporter at anchor.fm/spirits-of-whiskey. That's whiskey with an E. Click on the support button and select the contribution level that's right for you. Once you've submitted your payment information, just visit our website, spiritsofwhiskey.com, to create your personal VIP access account. We can't wait to see you in the VIP lounge. Join us.
I wanted to talk to you today about our new segment called Whiskey Whereabouts, where we check in with people that we've previously interviewed and ask them what's been going on with them and their distillery and their products since last we spoke. And we spoke to you early fall, and we aired in November. And I remember that when we talked back then, you said you're going to have a new expression coming out in May. I wanted to follow up and see what's going on. Did it make its launch?
Yeah, it did. We've just launched this new whiskey, which is called Culinary. Culinary is the Latin word. It means to cultivate. And this is a really important whiskey for us. This is a whiskey that really represents a huge step forward in terms of our relationship with barley, which is, of course, the only grain that's used in single malt. So the core idea behind that is looking at new barley varieties in the same way that wine, they're looking at different varieties like Merlot versus Cabernet Sauvignon versus Pinot Noir, etc.
Right.
Different barley varieties are not looked at all in the whiskey industry. Everybody uses the same stuff. So our idea with this program is to get outside of the commodity grain industry, so looking for more boutique varieties that are chosen for flavor, but also to look at how we look at barley and its role in agriculture. So looking for more sustainable agricultural systems, looking for more barley's role as a regenerative crop, puts organic matter back into the soil, and just getting away from the traditional systems of agriculture, which don't really benefit anybody, don't benefit the farmer, don't benefit the environment, and don't really give us any nuance. So it's a big step forward in that direction, and edition 1 is what we've just launched just a couple weeks ago.
That's fantastic. And I think you told us last time, but just to refresh us, where are you sourcing this barley, and do you have a particular farmer that you're working with?
Yeah, so this variety is called Alba. This is a 6-row winter barley. 6-row barleys are not used at all in the single malt industry because they yield less, which is what dictates almost everything in the whiskey industry. It's all about yield.
Right.
But we got this amazing flavor from this variety. It's grown in the Skagit Valley, so that's about 60 miles north of us here in Seattle. It's one of our primary barley sourcing regions. And this first batch was grown by a farmer who really needs to grow barley in his rotations with potatoes.
Oh, great.
So this is one of the really cool things about barley, is not just what we can get out of the local farm, but what the farmer gets out of it as well, which is to put this organic matter back into the ground and break disease cycles. So he makes most of his money on potatoes, but to cycle in barley is a really big deal for him.
Right. That's cool. Yeah. We were talking to Colby and Ashley Fry in Nevada a few months back, and they were telling us how they're farm to glass basically, and how they have all these different alfalfa and things that they do on their farm, but they really like to rotate the barley to help the ground. And because they do that, they're able to use their own barley in their whiskey, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the cool thing that barley does, is it's not just a thing that we get to make whiskey out of, but it's this great, workhorse for agriculture. In the Skagit Valley, there's 80 different crops grown that are of commercial significance. And the traditional, the commodity grain prices for barley make it the 80th most valuable, the least valuable crop that they grow up there, but they need to grow it because of what it does for the soil. And so the trick here is to also grow these new varieties at non-commodity prices so that they can actually earn a living growing this as well.
So that's fantastic. And is that available in California and all over the states? Where is it available for purchase?
It is. All the major U.S. cities that carry Westland today will be able to find it. It is just now rolling out, so in May and into June. So it should be available. Most of if you have a good whiskey retailer that you know and are familiar with that carries Westland today, almost certainly there will be some. There's not a lot of it. We've tried to spread it as wide as we possibly can, but there's only 2,800 bottles for the whole world.
Oh wow!
So. So it's not a ton of it. If you're kind of looking into it now, there's probably a good chance that it'll be available. So
okay, what other fancy things have you been working on since last we spoke?
Oh man, a ton of stuff. We have a farm. We've planted our first estate barley, which is really cool. So basically, that's being used as a vehicle to test these new varieties that are coming out of our research with Washington State University that are all focused on incredible flavor, all grown under certified organic and salmon-safe conditions. So that first crop, that's a pretty big deal for us, learning to be farmers at the same time.
Yeah. And how far is the farm from the distillery?
Yeah, so it's in Skagit, in the Skagit Valley. So we've basically kind of set up a second home up there.
Okay.
The Skagit Valley, which is where we source about, 30% of our malted barley, has been a really important place for us in terms of what we've been able to learn about agriculture and the farmers up there, the maltsters, the grain breeders are all just kind of operating on this cutting edge. There's nothing like what is happening there anywhere else in the world. So we basically wanted to do two things. One, to get closer to it, to understand farming a little bit better. But two, if we're going to ask these farmers to go off the commodity system, there's risk. We want to say, hey, we're going to share some of that risk. So we're going to test these new barley varieties at scale at our expense, and then you guys get to see how that works with the soil, with the agricultural conditions of the valley, before it goes out to everybody else. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. So there's a lot of that stuff going on. We hope to be certified B Corp by the end of the calendar year.
Awesome.
So we're just waiting in line,
of course,
for the audit, which takes 6 months at this point.
Right.
So there's that, and we're also rolling out another new product, which is our newest flagship American single malt whiskey. We wouldn't have announced that back the last time we spoke, so this is very much breaking news.
Yay!
Yeah, so this is our newest. For existing fans of Westland, they know we've got 3 core range whiskeys. We're introducing a new, single flagship offering that if people are familiar with our American oak, they'll find a lot that is similar, but there's a little bit of sherry casks and stuff in there. So it's a new evolution of our house style, and at a price point of $59.99 SRP across the country. Yeah, so we're really excited about that. So these 2 products are actually rolling out at the same time. Now.
Good. So I'll have to check for both of them when I do my shopping later.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. And how are you guys doing with the pandemic? Are you guys back up there? Or are you guys still waiting for a little bit more time?
Well, we're following all the health guidance we can, but the way that things are trending, what we've recently heard from the governor is that the state is back open, on the 30th of June, which is really close. We've played the whole thing pretty conservative the whole time. We've tended to be a little bit whatever phase the state was at, be one phase more conservative.
Great. And do you guys, I forget, do you have a tasting room that...
Yeah, we've got a tasting room. We've been able to do tastings, again, following all health guidance.
Right. That's awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much for taking time to tell us where your whiskey whereabouts are these days. We love to follow up on everybody to see what's new and exciting, and I'm always a big, passionate lover about the grain commodity system and trying to break it down and make things better for the whiskey and the farmer, because I think it's important. So, thank you for your hard work, and thanks for telling us what's going on.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me.
Also this week, we checked in with now Dr. Rob Arnold and learned that he has in fact graduated with his PhD. Currently, Dr. Arnold is on paternity leave after adopting a baby boy and couldn't be with us today, but he kindly shared his dissertation with us, and it'll be included in today's show notes for all to enjoy. Up next, we speak with Seth Benhaim of Broken Barrel Whiskey. Stay with us.
Have you heard about Anchor? It's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Today on Spirits of Whiskey, our guest is Mr. Seth Benhaim. Seth is founder and CEO of Infuse Spirits, which is the home of Broken Barrel Whiskey. Seth, welcome to Spirits of Whiskey.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. And thank you for hosting us at the Infusery for our second live recording, this time on hopefully a better box, which is the Zoom Podcast P4 device, which has amazing reviews.
I remember the first one well.
Review to follow soon.
Yes, review to follow soon. So we'll see.
This is a great space. Love the Infusery. I know we've done the cocktail collection. We've done some events here. Seth, you've been a great friend personally and a great friend of the enterprise. And we're very, very happy to be sitting down with you today, because I think I can speak for both of us when I say you're doing work that really kind of isn't being done.
Oh, thank you.
and let's not forget to mention that we shot part of the pilot for
Whiskey, A Chef's Journey. Yeah.
So
that was fun.
That was
a lot of fun.
Indeed, we did the last act. Where there was food.
The finale scene.
The food was fantastic on that portion. Those tacos were out of control.
Yeah, you can find pictures online. I think there are even some images in the sizzle reel, right?
Yes, there are. And if you go to whiskeyachefsjourney.com, you can see all of that.
Very good.
Yes.
Anyway.
So we always start off the show asking about your whiskey journey. And I know we touched on that during our chit chat on the last episode where you filled in for Louise. But why don't you tell our listeners how you ended up starting your whiskey journey and how you decided that putting pieces of Broken Barrel in a jar of whiskey was the way to go.
Yes, absolutely. So, I started the company at the age of 24. The company Infuse Spirits Group was formed to create our flagship Infuse Spirits vodkas, which we created in 2013, really. And then those came out and started hitting the markets 2014. We won some very prestigious awards, and then we were able to grow the business and find some investments. And once we got to about 2017, we realized, hey, we want to expand this a little bit. So we did Infuse Bitters, and we did an Infuse Spirits whiskey to go with the Infuse Spirits vodka. Mm-hmm. And our first product was Infuse Spirits Broken Barrel whiskey. And obviously today we're talking about Broken Barrel Whiskey, the brand. So you can kind of put the puzzle pieces together and see that we transitioned from Infused Spirits Broken Barrel to Broken Barrel Whiskey being its standalone brand.
Let's get into the Wayback Machine. Where did you grow up?
The Wayback Machine. I was born in San Francisco. My father was a med student at UCSF. We lived there until 1995 when I moved to Los Angeles. My dad got a job at UCLA. He is the chief of hand surgery there. So he's been there ever since, actually. He's still there now.
All right. Very good. So manual labor.
Yeah.
I wish I knew that. I just had my second carpal tunnel surgery. He could have been my guy.
I've heard the word carpal tunnel way too many times in my life.
So you grew up there and here, Northern California, then Southern California.
Yes.
And at the age of 24, when you were barely legal, you started a spirits company.
I did. I had one job out of college, and I actually had a couple businesses in college that I had started.
I'm not surprised.
I did some fun stuff in college, and I was able to buy a part of a house with my parents, and we still own that house today, which is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I've been basically working for myself since I was 19.
Why spirits? Did you have a taste for it? Were you a connoisseur?
I was kind of.
You drank a lot of it, is what you're trying to say. Okay.
I did have a fake ID as a teenager.
So did
I bought some booze with that.
I did too, but it said not an official government document right across the top. So
yeah,
I had one at 15 when the drinking age was 18. So let's move on. All right.
Yep. I had one at 17.
I had one at 19. So I was a little...
So I remember buying booze for people and selling it to them at a premium. So I was making money on booze way before
How am I not surprised?
Legally supposed to.
How am I not surprised?
I think in college, I was like junior year, I think. I worked that summer and I made about $1,000 doing work.
Where'd you go to school?
Yeah, I went to University of Arizona. Okay. So I was back at the U of A and I went to a local Bevmo and I spent the entire summer's pay on every color of liqueur you could imagine. I had blue, curacao, and triple sec, and yellow this and red that. And I was making drinks for everybody in my fraternity and my friends that would come over. And I remember one night at parents' weekend, my parents couldn't get into my room, our dorm room, because there were so many other people's parents in there that I was making cocktails for, and I ended up making about $500 in tip jar.
Oh my Lord!
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Off of parents.
And one of the parents came out and told my parents, "You got to see this kid. He's amazing. He's going places."
And this is just before the dean put you on double secret probation.
I did get caught with booze at one point. I had to go to adult responsibility class.
Oh my Lord!
That's fantastic.
It was quite an education. I still remember that was the first time I had learned that 6 ounces of red wine is 12 ounces of beer is 1.5 ounces of 40% ABV.
Yeah.
Learned that then, never forgot it. So it was a great education, that responsibility class.
Once you're out of school for a few years, you went into vodka.
Yes.
But with a twist. I mean, you do have an uninfused vodka, but there are lots of flavored vodkas in the market. Yours stand apart. I mean, I know how, but tell our listeners how.
The concept behind Infuse Spirits from day one till today has never changed. It's single bottle infusions. And when I say single bottle, I mean we put fruit into the bottle through the neck after the bottle is filled. We use real peeled lemons. We use dried mangoes, dried peaches, dried apple, cinnamon. We have done an orange limited edition. That's kind of harder to find. And then, the fruit sits in the bottle, and actually the vodka starts out clear, and over time it takes on the color of the ingredients, and then that creates the infusion. So
they're very good. I've visited the bottling plant, and it's just fascinating watching it happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's in North Las Vegas, right?
Yes, we work with a company out in North Las Vegas for the vodka, and then the whiskey is done in Kentucky.
All right. So
Nice.
how'd you go from vodka in the whiskey? Was that always part of the plan?
Yes and no. I had purchased.
I mean, why not rum? Why not gin? Why not?
Whiskey was clearly the hottest spirits category outside of vodka in terms of sales and growth, at least from like 2012 till now. It's been the one kind of big rising category. And tequila is very hot today, but 5 years ago, it wasn't really quite that. You wouldn't compare tequila to whiskey 5 years ago or 10 years ago, especially. So whiskey was really picking up around 2015, 16. And I was very, very much into whiskey. I collect whiskey. I've got 900 bottles of spirits.
I've tasted both Kerry and I.
Yeah.
I've tasted a lot of it.
Yes. So, so absolutely. I
love the powwows in your office/spirits
library.
Yes.
Yeah. So I had purchased InfuseRum.com, InfuseTequila.com, Infuse Gin. I bought them all. I bought Infuse Brandy, Infuse Bitter.
Infused by Joe?
I didn't buy Infused by Joe. If you want to make Infused by Joe, you could take that before I get there, and I'd probably tip my hat to you. But yeah, we bought all the domain names with the intention that we could, if we wanted to, or if the market wanted it from us, we could go into those other categories. So whiskey felt like the proper place to start outside of vodka. But bitters also kind of just came naturally because...
Yeah, talk to us about bitters. When did that start? Was that
same year
as vodka?
We branched out. No, so it was vodka from 2013 to 2017. And then in 17, we launched the bitters and the whiskey
simultaneously. Okay.
Yeah. The bitters came out in April and the whiskey first bourbon came out in August of 2017.
And reception?
The reception to the bitters was very small because we didn't make a lot of it. And the reception to the whiskey was phenomenal. We sold all of it before people even had a chance to taste it. They saw the pictures of the mock-up bottles and they bought everything we intended to make, all 500 cases.
I will say, everything you've ever released, both vodka and whiskey, has been beautiful. It's very sexy.
I'm fond of
Thank
bitters
you.
myself.
The packaging is very sexy. And the bitters, one thing about the bitters, you don't follow the well-beaten path.
How so?
You typically you concoct things that aren't generally available.
Oh, yeah. So we didn't do an aromatic bitter. It was our 9th product we released in the bitters, was our aromatic bitter. And we did it differently, too, because we use bourbon as a base.
Ah, okay.
So it's an aromatic bourbon bitter.
Right. Rather than a neutral grain spirit, which is most bitters are made with, a neutral grain spirit, often made with, distilled from beet sugar.
Yeah.
And you went with bourbon.
We went with bourbon because we wanted to highlight a bitter that would play really well with the Broken Barrel whiskeys. And also just in general, when we thought about like an Angostura, I know there's a billion things you can do with it, but I think one of the main uses for Angostura is generally that old fashioned. And so in using it for an old fashioned, we thought, why not make our own bitters instead of using Angostura? Because our other bitters all had kind of specific flavors like clove or cardamom or cassia bark, cinnamon stick.
And, the Chinese spice bitters.
We have a Szechuan, which uses the Szechuan peppercorns, which give you that kind of numbing sort of.
You need to follow it with a dollop of yogurt.
Very interesting. Yeah. Well, you want to just, as a couple drops will do you right on a bitter.
That numb taste. There's nothing like it. There's no regret greater than.
Clove does a very similar thing to your tongue as well. It's not quite the same effect, but it's similar in that too much clove will really give you like a numbing aftertaste once it's already kind of passed.
Yeah. Now, we have a bunch of whiskey in front of us.
Let's start in.
So we have 6 whiskeys in front of us. I think 3 of them are available in the market and 3 are not, or 4 plus 2, something like that.
What I pulled for you guys today were our 3 core products, an iteration of our cask strength, which does come in many shapes and sizes, so to speak, a limited edition release that came out last December called the Fen Walker, which we'll get into. And then I also, just because you're here in my office, I have the cask strength pull of the Fen Walker, which is nothing held back. It's foolproof. So the Fen Walker is a fun one.
Foolproof?
It's foolproof.
Not foolproof. Okay.
Not full.
Now,
proof?
what are we starting with? Now, how did you start? What did you start with? I see we're starting
the bourbon, 95 proof bourbon.
We're starting by drinking the California oak, right?
Correct. So we're going to start with our California oak bourbon from Broken Barrel.
So we're jumping ahead a bit in terms of
chronology,
but tell us about this, and then we can go back and talk about.
And I start with this because of proof, mainly.
It's a cool 88.
88 proof, nothing crazy.
88, your favorite number.
88, also born in 1988, which gives you an exact age there.
There we go.
But yeah, born in 1988, born in California. So this is kind of like me in a bottle, so to speak, my story, because I'm from California. I love Kentucky. So we work, it's worth mentioning, I know you guys had Jacob Call on the podcast from formerly OZ Tyler, now Green River Distillery out in Owensboro, Kentucky. And the first 3 we're going to drink today, actually the first 4 we're going to drink today are all distilled and bottled by Jacob in the Green River Distillery.
Yeah, Jacob, that was a great interview with Wheel Horse bourbon.
Yes, I've had the Wheel Horse bourbon.
Yeah, special stuff.
Do you give him a specific recipe you want him to use, or do you have him give you something and then you change it up when you get the?
Well, the change up is the process. How the whiskey is aged and finished is obviously proprietary to us in terms of the oak bill, which we'll get into as well. But this first one is a straight Kentucky bourbon finished with 2 kinds of oak. And when we say finish with oak at Broken Barrel, we're not talking about a barrel finish. We're talking about a broken barrel finish. So we literally physically take axes, sledgehammers, any kind of tool we can get our hands on, and we will smash full barrels, specialty barrels. In this case, we are talking about a Central Coast California Cabernet barrel, as well as French oak barrels, new French oak barrels.
Okay.
So the oak bill, which is, similar to a mash bill, is 80% California Cab from the Central Coast and 20% French oak.
Okay. Virgin French oak. X-Cab from Central Coast.
X-Cab from
which
Central
has its
Coast.
own distinct palate. Now, you're speaking in terms of oak bill.
Oak bill versus
Right.
like a mash bill.
Of course.
Yep.
Right. But as you said, everything you do is infused. So the whiskey is essentially infused.
We haven't used that word since
Indeed,
we
you've
divided the brands.
Yeah.
So in 2020, because it's 2021 now, thank God. 2020 was the first
Little
year.
COVID humor.
Little COVID humor. We migrated. So we were buying the whiskey from Jacob and Green River and sending it to our producer, our bottler in Nevada. And when we hit a certain volume, we were kind of like able, and we had grown the whiskey enough to be a client directly of Green River. So we are now bottling. They are milling, fermenting, distilling, bottling on site the entire Broken Barrel from grain to glass.
Okay.
So there's this product does not leave their facility.
Then it goes direct to market.
It goes
from
direct
there.
to market. Yeah, distributors are going to.
Some of it comes here, but it goes directly to the distributors.
Yeah, it goes to the distributors basically to go to market after it's made.
Right. No, it doesn't carry the name infused, but essentially you are infusing wood.
Yeah.
Just you're infusing fruit into your vodkas. You're infusing wood.
Just
oak bill, depending on the expression.
Just not to be confused with the single bottle infusions of the vodka.
Oh, of course.
These
Yes,
are
of
done
course.
in large tanks and filtered, so there's no wood floating in the bottle for those that haven't seen this product.
Understood. You got to watch for splinters, folks.
Yeah, I don't want the call about the splinters in the
There's splinters in me whiskey.
Yeah, that would be bad.
All right. So your first release was the bourbon?
The first release was the 95 proof Kentucky bourbon. And this is what we're going to have next. So do you guys do tasting notes, or do you just drink them, or you just drink them and go for it?
We do both.
We do, not as extensive as you do in yours, but the color on the first one is a nice golden. See, the dog wants some whiskey. He's trying to get to it. Is a beautiful golden color. It's got some, I'd say, medium oiliness in the legs, and it's delicious.
Yeah, it is. I've been a fan of this since I encountered it. It's a really this is so loaded when you say something's an easy drinker.
Yes.
Smooth. No, this is a frighteningly easy drinker.
Dangerously easy.
Yeah, but the cab cask really shines through.
Yes, you have all the dark fruit flavors. You have some vanilla, which I think is kind of signature. If you had Wheel Horse, you know that Green River has some of the biggest, boldest vanilla flavors, I would say, of any bourbon I've really come. It almost I would say there's a pretty predominant peanut note, or at least to me it's peanut, in all the Dickel Tennessee whiskeys. I can identify them pretty quickly when I'm blind tasting. With Jacob's stuff, I can always identify that vanilla really quickly. And so it's a big giveaway that I'm drinking Owensboro bourbon. And the fact that it's all relatively young whiskey. None of it's over 5 years. So everything in these bottles is under 5 years. And all these bourbons, so this bourbon and the last bourbon, are both Jacob's mash bill. So these are 70% corn, 21% rye, and 9% malted barley.
Okay.
This one and the last one.
Okay, this is a very well-balanced bourbon.
So the next bourbon, this is our signature flagship, hasn't changed the recipe since we came out with it in 2017. This is 40% ex-bourbon, 40% French oak, and 20% sherry cask oak bill. Okay,
yeah, that's coming through. It's funny that sherry. I'm getting a lot more sherry than 20% would suggest. Would you agree?
I would say the ex-bourbon,
which is not a bad thing.
The ex-bourbon is to bolster the woodiness and just give a little more of that oomph to it. It doesn't do a tremendous amount. It's almost there to stabilize. It's the sherry that's adding flavor, and the French oak that's adding more of that caramelized sweetness. That I really like from this bourbon.
It's a lovely bourbon. I think some weeks ago, a few months ago maybe, I posted a picture of a dram of this in the original label, like a very short-lived label. And
the first one.
Yeah.
It's like batch 1 or 2 or something.
Yeah, and you commented, you say, doing it old school.
Oh, yeah. I did, yeah.
Yeah. Next whiskey, the rye.
The rye. This is the Heresy rye whiskey.
Yes,
Let me
which
give you
would
a pour here.
suggest that you are sort of violating some norm.
Yes.
I think when you put the wood in the whiskey instead of the whiskey in the wood, many would take offense to that. And so
Why did you apply that to the rye only?
I think Broken Barrel as a flagship was like, here's what we're doing. We're breaking barrels. And then the rye was more like, we don't care what you think about what we're doing. And then the California oak was more like, okay, this is what we want to be drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So they're sort of telling a story in the naming. It's very simplistic, and most of my stuff's very literal, with the exception of a few things that get extremely imaginative. So we play in the extremes of exactly literally what it is, or so fanciful you have to look it up. Like, you don't even know what it is.
One
like,
thing
we go above people's heads and things they can't pronounce.
One thing I'd like to discuss, like the cask of Amontillado, is your single oak series, which was a very limited run, and it is gone.
It is gone. Yeah. It would be great if we were coming out with that now, when people knew, more people knew who we were.
It was good while it lasted. Talk to us about it, though, because while we sip this rye.
Yeah.
Before we get too far into it, when you get the juice, so to speak, from Green River, have they already aged it somewhat in a barrel, or are you getting it as new oak?
No. This is all the California oak is 2 year and up, and as of May this year, all the products will be 2 years and up, no older than 5. So 1 to 5 and 2 to 5 is kind of where we play.
So this is completely finishing. It's not. Like
it's
and then
finishing. Yeah, we don't just take new make, put it in a tank, and then put the staves. That would not have the same effect, and we couldn't call it bourbon either, unless it was a oak container.
Right.
Could have a big giant like square of oak.
Yeah.
And then put the staves in. I guess that.
Yeah.
It's an oak container.
It could be done.
But it has to be charred oak. It's a whole thing.
Right.
So
yeah.
I know we take bourbon that is bourbon that has spent the time in the barrel, and to call it a Kentucky bourbon, it's a year and a day. So got to be at least a year and a day to be Kentucky bourbon.
So the single oak series, tell us how that came and went.
I had a lot of like pent up ideas that needed to get out. And I tried to do all of them at once. And I'm glad I did on some level, because
we did a great launch event here.
We did a launch event with you guys, which was fantastic. I had friends and family at that. It was a pretty big turnout, I thought.
Huge. It
was great. It was one of the reasons I was so upset about COVID, because those nights were the ones I like, I wish I could do that again. It was great from a standpoint of, I feel like I was one of the first to take American whiskey and put Scotch barrels in it, so to speak, or finish with Scotch barrels. I was one of the first American companies to put Mizunara. There maybe been like 2 or 3 or 4 before me, and they were so expensive. I mean, I launched a Mizunara finished whiskey for $49, and I launched a Scotch, a peated Islay Scotch barrel.
That was the Isle of Peat. Single oak, right?
Yep.
Right.
And then we did a Amontillado, which is the Spanish
cask of Amontillado.
Spanish sherry. Cask of Amontillado. And most people still say armadillo. Or Amontillado. But they can't say it. But the funny part is, so we launched these very,
there were some light whiskeys in the blend.
There was a 12-year light whiskey in the blend. That product is now since gone. It's all been bought up. So I can't really get my hands on that anymore. But there's some fun blends. I mean, it's mostly corn whiskey, which was pretty much bourbon that didn't go into new barrels. So it had a pretty light flavor and color, and it was really impressionable whiskey. So we blended it to kind of get the right kind of mouthfeel and such. And then we did the oak bill to it, and that gave it a really nice finish and really let the oak itself shine. So you can taste the Mizunara, you can taste the Isle of Peat, the peated Scotch cask, and the Amontillado is just like, it's like the whiskey's like black. It's like dark. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed all of it very much. So tasting notes on this rye.
Yeah, the rye.
What's the rye bill? I'm looking at it right now, but 95.5.
95.5, an Indiana style rye whiskey.
All right. But not made in Indiana.
Not made in Indiana.
Okay.
Made in Kentucky.
Okay.
I was there on site. I saw the rye getting milled. Actually coming out of the truck. I've posted pictures of this, videos of this actually on our Instagram. So the rye whiskey is delicious. In my opinion, it is a very, it still has the vanilla flavor in my opinion that was there on the bourbon.
And it's 105 proof,
105
but it does
proof.
not drink 105.
No, No. It kind of drinks pretty much like the bourbon at 95.
Yeah.
You wouldn't really peg it as a higher proof,
Right.
10%.
And
proof.
no corn.
No corn.
95 rye,
No corn.
5 malted barley.
Yeah, if I were to do another rye, I would probably do. I know that MGP does make a 51% rye, 49 corn. I'd be very interested to work with a product that has that amount of rye, but still the rest of it being corn. I think that's a really fascinating mash bill to mess around with because it'll appeal to the bourbon drinkers and the rye drinkers.
Yeah.
So
I should say, nevertheless, that this comes across far sweeter on the palate than one would imagine.
It's very sweet.
Given the mash bill.
Yeah. The sherry cask and that French oak are really sweetening it up. They're adding a lot of like usable good sugars.
Are you getting those casks?
And there's less water too. Less water also gives you more of those flavors.
Sure.
You're not watering it down and diluting it to 95 proof or 88 proof.
Are those casks coming wet?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Soggy.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So you're getting juice out of those casks.
Marginally, yeah.
Yeah, but they're coming wet. Right.
Yeah, they're coming in wet.
Okay. They're coming in hot.
Coming in
wet. Coming in wet. Very nice. Next release after the rye?
So we got to open this one up. So this is a project. So basically, we have a cask strength bourbon, and it's exactly
released at the same time as the original bourbon release?
No, it was bourbon in 2017. Then we added cask strength bourbon and rye in 2018.
Okay.
We did the single oak series in 2019, and that was the first time they were called Broken Barrel, no infuse. And then 2020, we started launching these Broken Barrel editions that have varying oak bills. So if you look at the neck, normally it has a black leather strap, but now we've got these gold stickers and they have logos on them of the clients of the whiskey.
Oh, very nice.
So this is a special one that I brought for you guys to try, or I pulled, I should say. You guys came to me, so I didn't bring anything. But
you're bringing it.
I pulled this one from you guys. This is a beer cask finished, a porter beer cask finished cask strength bourbon. Okay. So it's 60% porter beer and 40% ex bourbon. Okay. And the beer is Second Chance Brewery from San Diego. Tabula Rasa is the name of the beer. Okay.
So, imagine a brewery in San Diego. Who knew?
Close your eyes and walk.
Yeah, exactly. San Diego is the land of breweries.
Yes.
That was a joke.
Hundreds, literally. But Second Chances, they're great guys. I had a nice series of conversations in the process. We have the same distributor. So our distributor was like, hey, we have the perfect beer for your porter beer finish. We want to work with our guys at Second Chance. I said, you know what? I've had Second Chance and I've had Tabula Rasa and I love that beer. I would be delighted to work with them. So I got to meet those guys and we put this product together. Unfortunately, it's only at one store in San Diego. They bought the entire barrel. And so it is a single barrel release, actually.
It's delightful.
Yes.
I don't know if that's I know that's not a typical whiskey word, but it's delightful. Try that.
It's got this like coconutty, portery thing going on. I really don't get a lot of coconut usually in the whiskey.
60% port. The oak bill is 60% porter cask, ex-porter cask, and 40. What's the balance?
Ex-bourbon.
Ex-bourbon. Okay.
It's got a lot of flavor.
Ooh, that's hot too. It's 116 proof, so you get a bite. I recommend water or a cube of ice with this one. But we have done port finished. We have done a rum finished, and we have done a peach brandy finish that's coming out. Peach brandy is coming out for a series of stores in Minnesota. So we will be getting a sample. I actually have not received. I do not have a bottle of that yet.
I would love to taste that.
Peach brandy. I did try a sample of it way back in November of last year. As like hey, this is what we're making.
Yeah.
But it had aged December, January, February, and now it's March. So we are about 4.5 months into aging that product.
Okay.
So the peach brandy has been aging it's a pretty long aging for us. We usually don't go 4 or 5 months. We usually go about 3 at the most, 1 in the summers, so we don't over oak.
Right.
Because the process, if you think about it, you have the whole stave in contact. So you have the back of the oak, the front of the oak. Normally inside of a barrel, it's just the inside.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
So
very good.
I'm excited to taste that when it comes out.
Very good. So this Fen Walker.
Yes, the Fen Walker.
Then this one carries a date. This one is there's an age, or at least not an age statement per se, but it does carry a vintage.
Yes, this is
What's that about?
Barreled in 2018 and bottled in late 2020. So a little over 2 years, closing in on 3 actually.
Okay.
It's a very young whiskey, but this whiskey had a journey. It was MGP single malt and MGP 95% wheat, 5% malted barley.
Okay.
Blend those 2 whiskeys together, vat them for 6 months, then pull them out and age half of it in sherry butts and half of it in ex-Ardbeg Islay cask barrels as well.
Okay.
And so
That sounds like it's going to have some good flavor.
this thing is weird. It's it's chocolatey, but it's got sour raspberry notes, and it's got all these really crazy waves of flavor that kind of come and go, and it takes you on a bit. I call this an after dinner whiskey.
Okay.
It's amazing. It's really
whence the name?
The name Fen is synonymous with like a bog or a swamp or a marsh, which is where you would find the peat. And the Walker is kind of like this monstrous mythical creature that is walking through the bog, or through the fen in this case.
Okay.
And is collecting that peat. So the idea is we have this mythical creature, this swamp monster that is just absolutely, you can't describe it. It's
okay. So like
it's
Sasquatch of the bog.
Yes. The swamp thing in essence is our
Or
muse.
Scots.
The nose is just completely different than anything I've.
You've never had a whiskey like this.
No.
There's no whiskey like
I'm
it.
picking up a little peat. I'm nosing the Ardbeg, but it's very, very faint.
I don't really get paint.
It's really low in the mix.
It's the iodine. It's that salty almost.
I get the vegetation part, but I don't
Yeah.
get the peat.
Think
It's
like
the
kelp
smoke.
almost.
Yeah.
On the nose.
Yeah.
But then you taste it, and and I'll tell you, the nose is not as good as the taste. The taste is, if you didn't nose it and you were to just kind of just taste it, totally different experience.
Yeah.
Well, listen,
It's
I
like
prefer.
it's like me for asparagus. I love the smell, but the taste is like it doesn't taste anything like it smells to me.
I always welcome a spirit that tastes better than it smells, but I am demoralized by spirits that don't taste as good as they smell.
Yeah, it's
because it's a big letdown.
Yes.
The flavor is those chocolate notes are just kind
Yeah.
of like hitting, and they kind of like spike throughout the process of the forward all the way to the finish.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a fun one. And so the last one I brought, not as many stories to tell here, but this is a cask strength version of that is never came out. This was never released. So
this will never see the market.
No, this bottle in my hand is the only one.
The market is this room.
Woohoo!
So
116?
115
and change.
9.
Okay,
Yeah. So
right.
yeah, 116.
159.6735.
Exactly.
Now the Fen Walker, the standard issue is 94.6.
94.6 proof.
Okay.
Yes.
Now that's interesting. I feel like the lower proof one has more of a stronger nose.
Yeah, the cask strength much lighter on the nose on the cask strength.
Much lighter on the nose, but a bigger punch in the mouth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now these come out of Green River in terms of bottling. Is
Mhm.
that correct? But they're not.
And
they're not Jacob's.
I missed
work.
the story. No, not at all. This is totally me. These also aged in Nevada for 9 months. So
Wow.
you have a
Hot and dry.
dry, hot climate versus a more, especially this time of year, moist and cool climate in Kentucky. So very different atmosphere, very different terroir than what you have in Kentucky, which is why I like, this is still kind of the last project out of Nevada, so to speak.
Nice.
Last, as in last,
Last
or last as
whiskey.
in most recent.
This is the last whiskey we'll release.
Okay.
I have ever released that spent time in Nevada,
okay.
which is
All right.
kind of like, our story began in Nevada, but it
Yeah.
really migrated to Kentucky
Mhm.
once we built this partnership out.
Right.
Very nice.
The future. What's
Yes, let's talk about the label change that I.
Yeah, we have a brand label change coming out in mid 2021. I can't get into too many details. There's no photos of this stuff online. I can just tell you it is a big change. It is a new bottle, new label. It is an absolute diversion from where we are currently.
So
And
by
for the
bottle, you
better.
mean a different shape?
A custom. I designed it. Yeah, with the team.
Nice.
All right, ready to get back into it? I have a question.
Yes, question.
Coming with the new design and label design, can we look forward to some new expressions?
Absolutely. We are going to be releasing an American whiskey this summer. And in the fall, I will also be releasing a Moroccan style whiskey.
Uh-huh.
And that's not a thing, but it's going to be, because I'm going to make it a thing.
How does one make it a Moroccan style?
Yeah. So we have.
You're of Moroccan ancestry, are you not?
Literally, my father born in Marrakesh.
Okay.
So, and I actually got to go to Marrakesh in 2019. So, having been there now, having grown up with the food and the culture through my dad and my grandmother, who lived a mile away from us pretty much since we moved to L.A., I've grown up around just a big Moroccan family my whole life. So a lot of spices, a lot of, big smells and flavors coming out of the kitchen. It's if you've ever had Middle Eastern food or any kind of, ethnic food, it's savory. It's got cumin, it's got anise, it's got saffron, it's got, and all these things are going to be lightly sprinkled into the flavor. When I say lightly, I mean, think of like the gin of whiskey, but a very, very subtle essence of these flavors, all brought into a rye whiskey and coupled with the corn spirit, so to speak, that we've been barrel aging for about 2.5, 3 years now.
Okay.
So we're going to have
Will there be lamb? Will there be infused with
It would
lamb?
go beautifully with lamb.
There won't be a pachuga
It's not. We're not going to hang and dry some dead lamb.
That would be a little too gross. So here's a question. So
Don't knock pachuga. Pachuga's awesome.
No, I mean
love
putting dead
Pachuga's
lamb,
great.
putting
Pachuga,
dead lamb
yeah.
in the whiskey. That's
So
what I mean.
you don't want to know how every sausage is made. I don't
Right.
think.
That's
So
right.
here's my question. Is this going to be more like the infused spirits where you put a bunch of barrel stuff and then you also add these spices, or?
This is going to be more like a liqueur. Like this is meant to be, it's going to be 50% 100 proof.
Okay.
And we want you to just pour it over the rocks and add an orange peel to it and just drink it like that as a cocktail.
The idea is rock and rye is a prepared cocktail. It's a ready-to-drink cocktail.
Yeah. Without
so this is a play on that. Maroc and rye.
Yes. We're going to do a Maroc and rye.
So it's a bottled cocktail, essentially.
Basically a bottle, a very strong cocktail.
Well, yes. Yes.
But the idea here is going to be kind of a fun, play on all of that. And yeah, rye whiskey, lots of sweetness. We're not adding sugar per se, but we do have our sugar source or our sweetness source instead of rock candy is going to be a maple barrel that
nice.
we actually have in this room that's aging.
Nice.
So
what kind of maple's in it?
it was a maple syrup barrel.
Nice.
It was an ex-bourbon barrel that had maple syrup in it that we dumped the maple syrup out and we refilled with an orange and clove infused vodka.
Oh, wow.
And so that vodka was really just a 100% corn spirit. So we're going to mix that corn spirit with rye whiskey, and then we're going to add the spices in a gin basket and then just do all of that together.
That's wonderful.
And then we're going to break barrels and put the barrels in. It's going to be crazy.
It's a party.
That's awesome.
It's a lot to explain. Just know that it's sweet and savory and spicy and rye and high proof and rock, orange peel. Drink it that way.
Sounds like a big Moroccan dinner.
Oh, yeah.
With extended family.
I wish my family drank. They would enjoy this.
Oh.
How could we keep finding all these people that are involved with spirits and don't have drinking families?
Indeed.
My parents don't.
Myself
Weaver.
included, actually.
Fawn Weaver of Uncle Nearest, teetotaling parents.
Yeah, same with Tracy Franklin and Lauren Oliver too. I believe she said that her family didn't drink.
Anyway, yeah. So they found the righteous path. It's eventually.
Right.
Yeah.
Cocktails.
Talk to us. I know you like cocktail. You're a pretty deft hand at preparing cocktails as well.
However, funnily enough, I don't think I've really had a cocktail since our last event.
Oh, well, in that case, we're done.
Quite literally. I have stopped drinking them mostly because of the amount of sugar in all the other stuff you add. But no, I love a good old fashioned. I love a Boulevardier. I was making Manhattans with the Amontillado, cask of Amontillado whiskey was awesome.
I feel like those are the three top cocktails that people.
If we went back through all the episodes and
I'm sure
polled
not
the
original.
episodes.
No, but what I think is interesting is that, well, We did have the margarita, but I digress.
I love
No,
a margarita.
yes.
I love a mule. I like a margarita. I like a mule with my vodkas. I like I make peach. Well, my favorite is a peach mule. I do the peach vodka, mint, and I make a regular mule, like lime and ginger beer.
Nice.
But that's those ingredients. Peach vodka is the.
Oh, you should see them get peaches into the vodka.
It's great.
Vodka
And then
bottles.
so you do peach vodka, and it's even great if you do like half bourbon, half peach vodka, ginger beer, lime for like kind of like a Kentucky mule peach julep thingy.
Yeah.
And then you can add a little mint to it. It's kind of like a mule meets a julep. It's
Mule meets julep. Yeah. A mulep.
A mulep. A peach mulep.
A jewel.
A jewel. A peach jewel.
There we
Jule.
go.
Jewel.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. If you were to poll all of our episodes, leading the pack by a lot would be as a category stirred aromatic cocktails.
Yeah, although I forgot.
Although we get a lot of whiskey sours.
Not as many, but yes.
I would say though, I do love a mint julep. You just don't order those often because you don't know if they're going to have like the stuff or the cup.
I usually only get those when I go to the races, which is totally cliche, but
I got one in Colorado and the bartender looked at me like I had just asked him to do like a backflip or something. He was just like not happy with me. He's like, dude, really?
That's what
He's
I
like,
get.
dude, just get like a beer. I'm like, no, I want the mint julep. It's on the menu. Like I
ask him for a Ramos Gin Fizz. He might quit.
I've had a Ramos Gin Fizz. They're very good as well, but
very labor intensive. Many of our classic cocktails that we think of as whiskey cocktails were originally brandy cocktails.
Yes.
Many of them cognac in particular.
Yes.
But yeah. So anyway, a big thank you.
Yes.
to
Big
Seth
thank you
Benhaim
thank
for
you
sitting
guys.
with us today and sharing of his
whiskeys.
manufacture. This has been great.
Has been great.
Yes, folks, you should find Broken Barrel Whiskey.
Yes. If you haven't
find it
had
online.
yet,
How can they
please
do that?
Yes. First of all, follow us at Broken Barrel Whiskey on Instagram. Go to brokenbarrelwhiskey.com. You can find the link to buy most or if not all of our spirits on caskers.com. The Fenwalker is only available on lovescotch.com, and that would get you set up for, I think, one of maybe 30 bottles they got or something like that. I don't know if they're, by the time you hear this, there may not be any, but that's where it went. So if it's there, great. If not, sorry. Since
we're speaking of all the places that you purchase and we're doing a podcast and we chatted with you about this before, let's talk really quickly about the Cartel Hour. So do you sell your whiskey on the cartels?
Cask Cartel does sell our whiskey, and crazily enough, they have a lot of our stuff, including the old labels that still say Infuse on them.
Mm-hmm.
They have marked those up substantially, which I didn't know that would be a thing, but they've gone ahead and done that.
Once the artist passes away.
You've gone to the Pappy Van Winkle land. Where they
I think it's just the fact that they know that they're discontinued was enough of a reason for them to like, hey, when these are gone, they're gone. Like no one's producing Infused Spirits bourbon any longer. So
I have an infused bourbon.
Yes, those are relics, and when new bottles come out, even the current bottles are relics.
Okay.
So definitely.
Do you have a launch date of this new? Or is it just an approximate?
Tentatively May to June.
May to June. Okay, so we'll have to look for that then.
Yeah, and check out Seth's podcast.
We do all kinds of. It's not just whiskey. It's mezcal and
does
gin.
With
so for those of you who don't want to just deal with whiskey, you can
if your whiskey's not enough and you want even more, that's kind of where I was at when we started it. We just wanted to do everything. I want to drink anything you put in front of me. So
wait, that sounds like Philip. Hold on,
wait a second.
Well, when we talk about cocktails,
yes, indeed. Okay.
Thank you, Seth, so much for being here, or for letting us be here. Actually,
for hanging out with me. Yeah.
Until next time.
Until next time.
All right.
World of Wheezy is up next. Stay with us. Hey, Louise, nice to have you this week. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Kerry?
I am good. We brought over Broken Barrel Fenwalker, which is kind of near and dear to my heart when it comes to us because we did go to Broken Barrel for the pilot. So it's kind of cool to have brought Seth in to do this episode with Fenwalker. And we didn't try that one when we were there at the pilot. So I was glad that he had one that we could taste that we didn't already taste. So what'd you think of it?
Oh, I loved it. It was so wintry to me. I immediately sort of picked up on these chocolate notes, which I will say, I'll throw myself under the bus here. I don't think I normally pick up very specific notes, but on that one I did. And I thought, well,
Cool.
I definitely want to pair this with a dessert, and I want to pair it with something really rich. It felt to me like I wanted to have this in cold weather, I suppose, which is, it's not exactly what the weather is doing in Southern California right now, but it certainly is elsewhere in the world. So I paired this whiskey with a bread pudding. I'm thinking a salted dark chocolate bread pudding. I would probably use a brioche.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Or a challah, something very rich and buttery. I would throw some dried cherries in there. I would probably throw some pistachios in there as well. But if you don't like nuts in your bread pudding, you don't have to do that. That's fine. And then, of course, I'd make a whipped cream to go with it. And I would fortify that whipped cream with the Fen Walker. And I think that would be a delicious little match made in heaven right there.
Awesome. Well, if we didn't already shoot the pilot and finish it, we could have made that for the dessert in the show after everything else we made. That would have been fun.
We certainly could have. It would have been a great dessert for that show.
Who knows? Maybe in the pickups, we'll see. It was fantastic talking to you about this today, and I'm looking forward to trying that bread pudding, because I'm a sucker for bread pudding. And I'm also looking forward to sharing this with Seth. But yeah, I'm looking forward to making this. I'm looking forward to seeing our show, and I'm looking forward to next week's whiskey.
As am I. Can't wait to taste it.
Okay, until then, have a great week.
For show notes on today's podcast, please visit our website at spiritsofwhiskey.com. That's whiskey with an E.
We'll include links and supporting documents from today's stories in this episode's blog post.
As always, you'll see upcoming topics, a guest roster, and links to past shows.
Sign up to become a VIP member of Spirits of Whiskey. With your membership, you'll have access to various spin-off series, including The Malting Floor, Tales from the Still, and our Telly Award-winning series, Kindred Spirits. To learn how, visit our website and click on the pop-up button. While there, check out our whiskey shop, where you can purchase books from past guests, as well as other whiskey products previously highlighted on the show.
If you run a whiskey club, or if you're a member of one, and you'd like your work featured in the Spirits of Whiskey Club Corner, send us an email via our website contact form, or leave us a voice message on our Anchor page.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time,
Slanchava.
Spirits of Whiskey is produced by First Reel Entertainment and the Center for Culinary Culture, home of the Cocktail Collection, and is available via Anchor, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and wherever fine podcasts are heard.